Hello, welcome to today's edition of Daf Berkorot Tractate Berkorot Daf 57 Amud 8. And Rabbi Yochanan follows his established line of reasoning in this regard. And Rav Ashi said to Rabbi Yochanan, said, brothers who divided, what does that mean? Ba'achim shechalko v'chulu, brothers who divide their fathers in heaven are the state of purchasers. Therefore, they must return their share in the Jubilee year. The commentaries explain that the initial division remains, but they switched the plots between themselves. The Mishnah Maragi Kurchas was a lot in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilik Shmit V'Yovel 11:20. By the real estate, the seeds and inheritance are considered purchases who have purchased from each other, and as purchasers of land, they must return the portions to each other in the Jubilee year. So what's the Jubilee year? The Yovel. The Jubilee year, which is the 50th year following 7 sabbatical cycles of 7 years, has a unique status. All the agricultural halacha that apply in the sabbatical year must also be observed in the Jubilee year. In addition, all Hebrew slaves, including those who agreed to continue their servitude beyond the initial term, are freed, while fields that were sold are returned to their initial owners. See Leviticus 20, chapter 25. The liberation of Hebrew slaves and the restoration of the fields occur after Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur of that year, special prayers are recited and the shofar is sounded in a manner similar to the way it is sounded on Rosh Hashanah. The Jubilee year is observed only when the majority of the Jewish people live in Eretz Yisrael. Consequently, its observance was discontinued during the First Temple period and has not yet been renewed, at which point they may redistribute the property. This demonstrates that Rabbi Yochanan does not hold that it is retroactively established that each brother's portion was designated to him upon their father's death. Rather, it is considered as though all the land was joint property until the brothers traded or bought their respective portions from each other. The Gemara knows, and both statements of Rabbi Yochanan are necessary, as if he had taught this halacha to us only here with regard to animal tithes. One might have thought that it is in this case that Rabbi Yochanan says that each one has not received his own portion. This is because the case must be similar to the case of your firstborn son. According to the position between the two cases, just as your firstborn son is redeemed only if it is clear to you that he is your son, not if he is purchased from another, so too your cattle and your sheep are subject to animal tithe only if it is clear to you, i.e. there is no aspect of acquisition at all. But in the case of a field, one might think that it is only with regard to a field that is sold that the merciful one states that the purchaser should return it in the Jubilee year, whereas a field that is an inheritance or gift need not be returned. So what does that mean? A matana or gift. A field given as a gift to another must be returned in the Jubilee year, in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis on 52b. And to Rambam Sefer Zerayim Hilchot Shmit V'Yovel 11:19. And if Rabbi Yochanan taught us only the halacha that a field inherited by two brothers must be returned in the Jubilee year, yet one might have thought that Rabbi Yochanan was uncertain and therefore ruled to be stringent. If so, he would rule stringently with regard to animal tithe as well, deeming the brothers liable. Alternatively, one might think that Rabbi Yochanan rules in this manner with regard to returning fields in the Jubilee year only because the field must return to how it was in the beginning. So what does that mean? Imname batchila. According to Rashi in Gittin 25a, this is referring to the initial inheritance of Eretz Yisrael when it had not yet been divided but belonged to one person. Rashba cites some commentaries who explain that Rashi means the land must be returned to its original state, as Abraham inherited it when the land was given solely to him. Rashba himself holds that it means they return the land to the original state it was in when it was divided between the tribes of Israel. Only that division which is performed with the V'Tum and the glossary are considered definitive. Any other division of land is merely an arrangement between those who inherit it, like any other business agreement. But here in the case of animal tithe, where there is no requirement to return matters to the initial state, one might say that the brothers are not considered to be purchased, but rather each received the animals that were retroactively designated for him, and they are therefore obligated in animal tithe. For this reason, it is necessary for Rabbi Yochanan to teach both cases. The Gemara raises an objection from a Brit against the opinion that there is a retroactive designation of the animals. And similarly, in the case of two partners who divided their common property, and one took 10 lambs, and the other took 9 lambs and a dog. So what's that? In a case where two partners divide up their partnership, with one taking 10 lambs and the other taking 9 lambs and one dog, The 9 lambs that were taken with the dog are permitted for sacrifice on the altar. With regard to the 10 lambs, if one of them is worth the value of the dog or more, that lamb may not be sacrificed, and others are permitted for the altar. If each of the lambs is worth less than the value of the dog, all 10 are prohibited for sacrifice on the altar. This halacha is in accordance with the Mishnah on Turma 30a on the Sefer Vod Hilchot Yisuri Mizbeach 417. Sacrificing any one of the 10 lambs taken in exchange for the dog is prohibited. This is because they are considered the price of a dog, as is stated in Torah Deuteronomy 23:19, since they were given in exchange for it. Nevertheless, the 9 lambs that were taken with the dog are permitted for sacrifice. The Gemara explains the objection. And if you say there is a retroactive designation, why are all 10 lambs prohibited? Let him select one of the lambs to correspond to the dog and take it away, and all the rest of these lambs should be permitted. Okay, I'm not going to finish Yomad, but I'm going to keep going. Finish. Rashi said, if this is referring to a case where they're all equal in the value to each other, indeed one may consider only one of the lambs as corresponding to the dog. Here we are dealing with a case where they are not all equal in value to each other, but the value of this dog is 1 and a small amount more, and then the value of each one of the 10 lambs. Therefore, one cannot set aside a single lamb in exchange for the dog, and consequently one draws this extra small amount, i.e. the additional value of the dog, and divides it between all of the other 9 lambs. As a result, all 10 lambs are prohibited, since part of the price of the dog is included in each of them. Mishnah: all cattle, sheep, goats enter the pen to be tithed, except for an animal crossbred from diverse kinds. Chutz min haklayim v'chulu. All animals enter the pen to be tithed, whether they are blemished or unblemished, including those that are prohibited for sacrifice on the altar. The only exceptions are the offspring of diverse species, a treifa, an animal born by cesarean section, and an animal whose time has not yet arrived, i.e. that is less than 8 days old. These animals are exempt from animal tithe. An orphan animal whose mother died or was slaughtered during its birth is likewise exempt from animal tithe. The Rambam writes that these halachot are learned by tradition. The Rambam says, Berkorot 6:4, which is a hybrid of a goat and a sheep, a treifa. Generally speaking, treifa is an animal suffering from a condition that will cause to die within 12 months. It's prohibited by Torah to eat such an animal even after it undergoes ritual slaughter, although the actual source for this prohibition is a matter of dispute. Some authorities cite the verse, "You shall not eat any flesh that is torn of animals in the field," Exodus 22:30, while others suggest the verse, "You shall not eat of anything that died of itself," Deuteronomy 14:21. According to the Mishnah Chinuch, both verses together serve as a source for the prohibition. An animal born by cesarean section, one whose time has not yet arrived, i.e. that is younger than 8 days old, which is when animals become eligible for sacrifice, and an orphan. And what is an orphan? It is any animal whose mother died or was slaughtered while giving birth to it, and thereafter completed giving birth to it. Rabbi Yeshua says, even if its mother was slaughtered but its hide exists at birth, even if the mother was slaughtered, even if its mother was slaughtered and its hide exists at birth, i.e. the mother's hide is present after the birth and is not an orphan. The Gemara asks, from where are these matters? The Gemara asks from where these matters, i.e. the fact that those animals are not included in the animal tithe derived. The Gemara answers, as the sages taught in a Braita that discusses offerings in general, when a bull or a sheep or a goat is born, then it should be 7 days under its mother, but from the 8th day onward it may be accepted for an offering made by fire to the Lord, Leviticus 22:27. And the phrase a bull or a sheep serves to exclude an animal born from diverse kinds, or a goat serves to exclude an animal that resembles another, e.g. a sheep that is an offspring of 2 sheep, but which looks like a goat, or vice versa, when it's born, serves to exclude an animal born by cesarean section. Then it shall be 7 days. Serves to exclude an animal whose time has not yet arrived, and its mother serves to exclude an orphan. The Braita continues, from where is it derived that these halachot also apply to animal tithe? Rabbi Shmuel, son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Berkorot, says it is learned from a Biblical analogy from the term under. It is stated here with regard to animal tithe, whatever passes under the rod, Leviticus 27:32, and is stated there with regard to all offerings under its mother, 22:27. Just as there in the case of all offerings, the verse serves to exclude all these categories, so too with regard to animal tithe, the verse serves to exclude all these categories. And just as here, with the animal tithe, the verse serves to exclude a terefa, in the Rambam's commentary on the Mishnah, is explained that terefa is too weak to pass under the rod. See also O Moshe. As the verse states, whatever passes under the rod, and the terefa is unable to pass unaided, so too there, with regard to all offerings, the verse serves to exclude a terefa. The Gemara asks, what does the Mishnah's expansive term all serves to include? The Gemara answers that it serves to include this halacha that the sages taught in Bais with regard to an animal copulated with a person, or an animal that was an object of bestiality, or an animal that was set aside for idol worship, or one that was worshipped as a deity, or one that was given as payment to a prostitute, or as the price of a dog, or a tom-tom, an animal whose sexual organs are indeterminate, or an hermaphrodite, i.e. an animal displaying sexual organs of both sexes. All of these enter the pen to be tied, despite the fact that they are disqualified from being brought as offerings. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda says, in the name of Rabbi Shimon, tom-tom and hermaphrodite did not enter the pen to be tied. So I'm going to have to stop there. Thank you for listening, and all the best.